I think at its core that it's worth it. That it's worth it to not give up. It's worth it. I'm worth it. The listener's worth it. You're worth it. And I think that if we allow ourselves permission, to thrive and enjoy our life and to see what we're capable of, to me, it's like coming out of the cave into the sunlight. And I think that that's the beauty of it. And just to keep at it. I think that at its core, it's just keep at it.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however, emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
What does a person do when the same unlikely disaster, losing the roof over their head, happens to them twice before they've ever even reached adulthood? And what happens when the way through isn't therapy or theory, but a beat up cassette player and a set of barbells that survived the fire? Welcome back to the Give a Heck podcast. I'm your host, Dwight Heck, here to help you live life on purpose and not by accident. My guest today grew up in Santa Cruz Mountains in the shadow of his father's motorcycle shop, racing dirt bikes as a kid. When he was 5 years old, a wildfire burned his family's home to the ground. They rebuilt, and 4 years later, an earthquake tore through the house too. In the years after, he found himself fighting panic attacks and, for a stretch of his life, addiction. What pulled him through was music and physical training. He went on to become a nationally performing recording artist on Rebel Sound Records, working alongside collaborators and producers connected to names like Mariah Carey, Usher, and Chris Brown. Along the way, he also built a real estate career with more than $250 million in career sales and became an endurance athlete. 8 years and a lot of 4 a.m. rewrites later, he turned the whole story into a memoir. Rise and Climb, Finding Purpose Through Pain, published through Skyhorse and distributed by Simon & Schuster. Ben Barbic, welcome to the Give a Heck podcast.
Thanks, Dwight. That was a great introduction, man. Love that.
Thank you. To me, it's important to introduce a person, right?
Yeah.
In a very passionate way, because you've done me a favor, and in my listeners, I get people that'll send me messages. We like that you do this, and I mean it with all sincerity. You've decided to invest some of your precious lifetime with us, right? And I don't take that lightly. You'll never get that time back, but this time that you're giving us can educate and train and teach and motivate and uplift and inspire so many people that I really appreciate you being here, Ben. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
So, Ben, one of the things I start with on my podcast, which I find is the way life is so disconnected from, like, people are disconnected in life. They don't care enough about the origin of people, right? They just want to know what have you accomplished since you become an adult. Well, there's so many different things in life that affect us, like I talked about in reading out some of your origin, which is just a little sliver of it. It's important for people to understand so that they can connect, so that you can truly hit their heart with your knowledge, right? With your understanding and your compassion. So, Ben, I always start at the origin story. What did your story actually start like, from your earliest recollections that you're willing to share up to where you are now?
Yeah, I think the key for me is to go back to the joy that I had when I was really young. I think one of the things that I had in my earliest memories was growing up around motorcycle culture. My parents had motorcycle dealerships. My father was a racer, and I was a kid that just got to play in this playground all the time, right? And so the earliest memories gave me that. And then when I was 5 years old, actually, um, a forest fire took out our house and wiped out our house. And at the same time, because we were dealing with that, uh, the manager of the store embezzled, and my parents lost all of their motorcycle shops. And so, why that's important is it went from joy to extreme loss. And so we went from, a modest house in the mountains, but living through this culture of really renegade motorcycle culture that I loved and I was a part of, to turning away from that culture of motorcycles, losing our house and having nothing but a donated trailer that we lived in. And I think it's important to kind of paint the picture. We didn't have power, we didn't have, plumbing, and so for quite a bit of time, we were just sitting amongst these burnt trees in a donated trailer. And so for my young self, this was very significant change that showed me here was one thing and now here's this existence. And so once that existence became that, unfortunately, if you will, I ran into a stream of, unfortunate events that are fairly much like winning the lottery in the wrong direction. So, um, after we lived in the trailer, we rebuilt the house, and then the Loma Prieta earthquake happened 2 years after it was rebuilt, and we lost it again. And so, this in my young mind created a sense of anxiety within me. I didn't know what was happening, but I felt like I was going to die. I felt like things were coming at me at any angle, and I couldn't trust anything. And so during this time, what I could trust was music. And so one of the things that really it was impactful is that the world within music was one that I could go to, one that I could return to whenever I want, and one that was the world that I created. And so that world became extremely significant for me. The other piece of this was the only thing that survived the fire was the dumbbells and the plates that we had. And the only thing that did. So what did I do? My young self took them, I sandblasted them, and they're with me to this day. The weights are with me to this day. I'm in my garage still. And so, they started to be metaphors for my life. They started to kind of be a part of things that I carried with me and the strength that I gained along the way. And so with those two anchors, although I made a lot of stumbles as I continued through life, I did have those that were keeping me from truly uh, collapsing, if you will, through bad decisions, through anything. I maintained these two anchors within my life. And so those continued along. I had my son was born at 22. I had to go to work. I had to become, I decided that, look, at that point, I was going to sound engineering school. So music was a big part of my life. And when he was born, I had to stop going to school and I had to focus on making money for my son and for, uh, myself. And so I decided to get a real estate license because his mom lived 4+ hours away. And so every Friday I had to go pick him up and come back home. And so I could be with my son. I made a dedication to be in his life. And so real estate provided me an opportunity to continue with my music, my schedule, be in my son's life, and dedicate time. And so it really became something to where it was an industry I had known. My father and then my mother had gotten into the industry. But more than that, it was an industry that gave me the flexibility. So I'm going to say one more piece on this so you have all the nuggets in place. So, I left sound engineering school. I went to work Pro Audio Guitar Center, and I very quickly learned that I was pretty good at sales. I didn't know if I was good at sales, but I did well at Guitar Center. I sold a lot of gear. I was around music, and I needed to make more money. And so I decided, look, I'm going to go into real estate, and I'm going to make sure that I continue with the anchors and the passions that I believe in. I'm not going to give up my dream, right? But I'm going to make this decision. And so that decision, I'm quite far away from. I'm over 20 years away from that decision now. And so what happened from there was I just kept nurturing these different habits, these different things. I kept pursuing real estate, growing that, learning sales. I kept pursuing music. I kept growing that until that started to really take off. And then to fast forward a little more, I started writing, and we can get into that separately. But just to kind of show you the way that I arrived here today, it was basically that with the rock bottom moment at 28 that changed my decision making and what I put money, effort into. And so now we're 18 years removed from that. So it's 18 years of progress where I was like full focused on real estate, music, and forward progress as much as I can make in life. And that's in a nutshell my whole philosophy.
Wow. It's all based on tenacity, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so many people don't realize, I don't know if you agree with this or not, Ben, but you have the superpower of tenacity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing
Mm-hmm.
this right from when you were little, all the way to taking barbells and sandblasting them, like and keeping that. That is an anchor to the past, but also an anchor to your ability to be strong and
That's right.
tenacious and move forward. Why would you ever get rid of them?
That's right. That's
Right?
right.
You look at them and it may give you a wash of people listening or watching. You can get a when you can look at something that's a visualization, you can get a
Yeah.
wash of multiple, two things can be true at once. You can get a wash of sadness because of how it happened, but
Mm,
also a wash of strength
mm.
and perseverance. And
Yeah.
yeah, so congratulations on having the superpower that so many people are lacking, right? Tenacity. So
Thank you.
that's what I heard throughout that. And you you adapted to your circumstances consistently, wanting to make sure your son was in your life and driving
Hmm.
that distance and
Hmm.
and being aware that you were good at sales and
Hmm.
continuing to evolve your career, like, or your potential of what you wanted to do in the future is amazing. So many people, what do, Ben? They
Hmm.
quit,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Quitters never win and winners never quit, right? So
Yeah.
part of me, at the end of the day, winners always continue to go forward. They'll pick themselves up, they'll put a band-aid on their knee and they'll move forward because they know that they can't see what's around the corner, but quitting never ever accomplished anything but keep you on the hamster wheel of life, right? Go
Hmm.
to work, go
Hmm.
home, get paid, and you really never accomplish anything.
That's right.
And again, not to offend those that are listening, if that's what your dealio is, your stick of life, great. But most people that listen to my show are people that have that little seed of inside of them that they want watered, they want to grow, and they
Yeah.
need to hear stories like yours that no matter what, going from living in a trailer with burned trees around you to finding barbells to selling equipment in a music store to being a writer to producing music is it's amazing. But
Mm.
you also said though 18 years, or you said different time
Yeah.
frames,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's right.
Those
Yeah.
listening or watching, life doesn't happen. You can't just expect everything to come to you without putting in effort. So thanks for
Yeah.
that.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and just to finalize that, it's like, I called my book Rise and Climb, Finding Purpose Through Pain for that exact reason. The commonalities of my life are just like the barbells, like the purpose was through the pain. And so the duality of looking at the things that burnt, but I painted them, I brought them back to life,
Yeah,
and they were tough and they endured, and they helped get me stronger and help me mentally, because I believe that fitness is a big part of mental esteem and things. So yeah, man, I think it all ties in.
that's awesome. I love that though. Um, those listening, I'm smiling because I absolutely love. We're not even that far into the show already, and just I love talking to people, Ben, that have their story flows to the fact that they always persisted. They were
Hmm.
resilient. Resilience is something that so many people need to, and awareness, being aware, being resilient, pardon me, not to let things that have happened terrible in their lives slow them down. Use it as a
Hmm.
catalyst
That's
instead of
right.
an anchor. So thank you so much. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, you started with cassette tapes as a kid, and now
Hmm.
you're a recording artist on Rebel Sound Records, working with collaborators and producers connected to
Hmm.
names like Mariah Carey, as I mentioned, Usher, Chris Brown. What was the actual path from a kid with a boombox to standing in those rooms? Like you mentioned some of it, but can you put more detail and a story behind it?
Yeah, I think that first of all, it was just kind of the same general concept of never stopping on it. And so no matter what happened, like let's say I, the early stuff is fine. I was a kid who liked music and really got lost in it, right? And then I went to sound engineering school, and I was, a friend of mine had was getting his law degree, and we were going to start Benny B Records, and it was all set up. That's what we're going to do. It was going to be my music going forward, and then I had to make a pivot. Life gave me a responsibility. Um, but with that responsibility came a little bit of a mess in my identity for a second, but I never stopped the music. And then, once I committed to saying, look, I'm at 28, I think it's very important to look at 28 because 28 was the moment that I started to take everything very seriously. And I flipped my mentality like a light switch to like, okay, look, I'm never going to stop at these things and I'm going to climb as high as I can. And so from the four walls of my basement studio, I started making music that I was determined to get me to around the world, you know? And so I started from these very, from four walls, I started reaching out and reaching out to the world. And so I started getting bites and I started getting, opportunities to travel around and go to France and record for a month and go all over the place. And so as these things happened, I had learned sales, I had learned the nuances of, interactions and reach out and same thing for booking anything, right? I'm used to cold reach out. I'm used to reach out. I'm used to what that is. And so it's through the repetitions that I started elevating, a connection to my identity as an artist. And through that, people started seeing it and people started giving me a lot more yeses. Still got no's. I still got, opportunities where I remember, I'll never forget. I write about this in my book, but this was an important moment. I made a song that was a demo that was enough to where I flew out to New York to meet with some people, and one of them was Burt Podell. So they call him like the accountant to the stars, right? And it was a very, I won't say intimidating meeting, but it was a very invigorating meeting. And he listened to my music and he's like, and he, you can look him up. He's worked with the best of best. And he said, "Oh, Ben, how old are you?" And I was like, at that meeting, I was 34, I believe. And he's like, "Oh, too bad you didn't come to me at 28. I could have really got you a career." And so I was sitting with this guy who had changed people's lives. He's basically telling me I'm too old for the pop circuit, but I left invigorated because I was like, oh, I sat with this guy. I belonged, I was enough to earn going into the room. I'm having these meetings. They think my music's justified. And they're using a schematic of like to nurture an artist and to do the traditional route. I'm past that. And that gave me excitement. So in a way, it was a rejection. But bigger than that, I thought it was a tremendous win because I came back from that trip elevated up in my mind. I met with a couple other people that were significant and won Grammys, and I just be. I'm firm in the belief of this. Like, it doesn't have to manifest something. It doesn't have to get them to work with me, but just being involved and being around people of a certain caliber helps me elevate up. And so I came home and I was more motivated to just keep going on my own, to keep pushing, to keep developing out. And so, from there, I very quickly got a whole bunch more doors opened for me, and a kind of snowball effect happened. And so I would say that trip was one where it really changed it. And so why did that happen? It's because I never stopped. When my son was young and my daughter was really young, I still was down in the studio making music for 3 or 4 hours while everybody slept and woke up at 5 or 6. I was dead tired, but I didn't care. I knew that this is what I needed to do to accomplish what I needed, to have no regrets in life. And so I did it. And so I was able to do the same thing when I wrote a book. It's just make the thing, cultivate the thing, find the connections, and then boom, literary agent, boom, publishing deal. Like, it's just, I had a lot, and we can get into that or not, but it's like there was a lot of struggle over those 8 years, a lot of like, nah, no thanks, not good enough, whatever, needs to go more. This guy's bragging too much, all these different things. And I had to learn the craft. So it's the same concept that I learned from my early ages. And this is where, like, you said the premise of my book right off the gate, the resilience and okay, that thing happened, flip it. That thing happened, I'm gonna flip that. I'm gonna take that, I'm gonna take the fuel of that, and I'm gonna now keep going. And I'm gonna just learn from it. So I think the one thing I'm a real proponent of is people taking that approach to things. Like, you know, through every rejection, there's something to learn, there's some fuel to get. And if you don't think like, oh, I'm not good enough, and you think, nah, I am, I'm gonna show that I am. I believe I am. I just have to get better at this craft, fine. Or I have to, whatever it is, I have to be better mixer, a better singer, a better writer, a better salesperson, and whatever. I just look at it as life's a lot more full, a lot more abundant if we take those things and package them together and use them as, armor, as you will, if you will, going forward. We just get better at it. So that's the approach.
Your whole everything we've been talking about, or that I've been listening to, your level of awareness is very high. And I
Mm,
find that somebody that's very aware of their circumstances can take, like you said, a guy said, how old are you? 34. And he says, oh, if you'd come at 28. Well, most people take rejection how? They take it as an anchor
right,
and they go, oh,
right,
I'm never going to be anything. And they get stuck on a hamster wheel.
right.
Your awareness was, no, like, screw that. Like, yes, I understand you went through 8 years of highs and lows, right? Like tell people, we go through the valley of despair. People that are successful, they'll go, "Oh, you're so lucky," and I'll
Yeah.
say to them, "You know what? Luck is a loser's excuse for a winner's completion." And at the end of the
Uh,
day, I am a person that will take that failure and realize it's another stepping stone. Nobody I know in my lifetime, right, in my late 50s, has that's successful around me, or people I've met in and around the world, was successful by giving up. They might have heard 999 no's before they heard a yes, but
right.
each no was another stepping stone for knowledge, for understanding,
Hmm.
and more awareness of their surroundings. Like you mentioned that too, right? You look at what's going on. Where am I going to go? What
Yeah.
am I going to do? Well,
Yeah.
I know one thing I'm not going to do, that's quit,
That's right.
because I know what my passion is. And in order to get people listening and watching, sometimes to get to your passion, your true calling, you have to do some things along the way, or a job, or different circumstances, like Ben was talking about, to pay the bills,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To take
That's
care of your family, to take care of yourself. So good on you. I love that.
thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, what does music give you, though? Like you talk again, you touched on some of this, but I want more, nitty gritty, I guess, to it.
Hmm.
What does music do for you that nothing else in your life does? Like, if even now that everything that you've built,
Hmm.
it sounds to me like that's still your number one foundation, your number one go-to, to
Yeah.
give you solace, to give you strength, to give you
Hmm.
power.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I think it's just anything I'm going through can be channeled into it. And so if I'm feeling good, it can be channeled into it. If I'm feeling angry, it can be channeled into it. If I'm frustrated, it can be channeled into it. If I'm feeling motivated, it could be channeled into it. So it's a direct artery into what I'm experiencing any given day. And so sometimes, as odd as this might sound, if I'm in a bad mood, I know I probably need to make a song because it's not my usual mood. So I need to go channel that, or I need to write in book two right now. Now that's how I do it because that's a little unusual and I'm a little edgier. I'm like, okay, this is good. I need to use this fuel because this is not how I'm going to necessarily wake up tomorrow. Um, and I've kind of applied that. I mean, even going back to in a weird way when I had COVID the first time. I was like, okay, I'm feeling in delirium right now, but let me go try and put this into art just because it's this strange window where I feel totally different than myself. So my mind's operating differently, without drugs needing to do it. It's just like naturally, if you tap into it, you got a whole bunch of different categories that the brain can go to. So I think also to piggyback on a day job, let's say I'm out there grinding in real estate and it's tough and I'm waiting on things or whatever didn't work out, or even if it did work out, having music as an anchor that I can go to helps me feel like myself and in many ways, and um it allows me to maintain that sense of identity that I so value, and for me is like I would say a vital piece of my overall collective energy. Um, I'm a big proponent that if we have multiple lanes going on, we don't get as affected by something negative in one lane. You know,
Oh,
so
wow.
so so
I
like
do. I love that. I
yeah.
just want to
Go
interject.
ahead, please.
Sorry. I keep on thinking to the self, we talk about people, you'll hear them say, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? How am I going to make it through? And people say, well, you're going to keep on pushing forward. The light will get brighter. Well, for you, the light at the end of the tunnel is music. It doesn't matter what's
Yeah.
going on,
Yeah.
how many pipes are flowing together. The end result for you is your dedication to that craft, because it is a craft,
Yeah.
a passion, has been music, and that's refreshing to hear because those listening or watching this episode, don't give up. Your light at the end of the tunnel can be whatever it needs to be. If you have a passion, keep that passion alive. Do whatever you need to do to make good on it, right? Just keep on pushing
Right.
forward. So I love that. I just kept on thinking to myself, his light is his music, and
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're welcome. So, did you have anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
No, no, I think that's fine. I could circle back to it later if needed.
Okay,
Yeah.
sounds great. So I want to talk about your book.
Hmm.
Right? Which for those watching, you can see it over his shoulder, Rise and Climb. One of the things I know, writing my own book was one of the most cathartic things I ever did.
Hmm.
And I talk about this with every author that's on. There were moments that caught me off guard when I was writing it. 5.5 months, I pretty much didn't do anything else besides,
Hmm.
outside of my business and life. I was literally writing this book, and the editor would send it back to me. And sometimes I'd look at stuff and go, "What?" And I'd kick myself in the pants because I should have done it sooner. But I didn't, I compartmentalized it, right? Stuck it
Hmm.
in a box, and I didn't acknowledge the good, bad, and indifferent, right?
Sure.
The ugly parts of my life. So there was time when I was writing the book that I should have patted myself in the back. I didn't. So
Hmm.
many successful people or people on a journey forget to enjoy the journey. And I realized how much I hadn't. I was always that, okay, I've reached here, go on to the next thing. And
Hmm.
I never celebrated. How was writing your book? How was it for you? Was it a cathartic journey, especially with everything you've shared with me? I imagine it was, but can you explain more how, from starting to decide to write the book to the final completion, what you felt?
Yeah. Well, the first of all, the original intention was to write something for my kids. So I just, I was like, oh, I'd like to. I was in an airport going to a music show, and I had a couple hours, and I was like, this is really strange. At the time, I was in my late 30s, and I was like, this is kind of interesting that this is where I'm, I'm really rising through music, and I was like, I should really write this down so they have something to reference. Like, it doesn't matter your age, just do the thing you want to do. It'll work out if you keep at it. So I started writing it in an airport, and I just, the way I did it was kind of A to Z because it's a memoir, and I like A to Z stories, even in movies. If it's a memoir, I kind of enjoy the just straight through. Personally, people don't always like it that much, but I like it. Um, so I started writing it, and then I started seeing kind of some of these commonalities, and the overall premise started to reveal itself of my life. It's pretty obvious to me now, but as I started writing it, I wasn't as aware of these things. And so as that came about, I started seeing the commonalities of, like, flipping the switch or taking control, or, overcoming and enduring and never stopping, and how my music was all these things. So I developed it further. And the one thing I didn't do in the beginning was really get into the story and get into the weeds of the truth underneath the story. I might glaze over it, or, this happened, and this happened, and this happened, instead of, I was feeling this, it was troubling. My vulnerabilities, my pain, the real truth behind the thing. So the real therapy within it was really diving into that experience again, having to relive it, and then having to relive it on repetition, because probably you did the same. I had, you know, 5 or 6 times that I had to go through, or more actually, the whole book again and really sit with everything. Say, is this true? Is this, am I giving everything here? Why am I saying this? Is this story really needed for what the reader is going to get out of it, or the listener, if it's the audiobook? And um, so through that, I had to become really comfortable for anything in my backstory and really think about what was truly valuable, or was it something I was just kind of saying because I was proud of it. And so I really had to. I would say it's, I have done therapy in the past, and all of these things, but I would say this form was the most introspective that I've had to do. And through that introspection, I really learned who I was. And then that translated out into my music or sitting here with you. There was just an extra layer of truth of who I am that comforted me because it was just laid out in front of me so clearly, and so that's how it came about.
That's awesome. I know, you know what it does. It helps us realize so many things about ourselves as individuals. And those listening or watching doesn't mean you have to go write a book.
Yeah,
Start
that's right.
journal. You can journal.
That's right.
Journaling's great. It helps you out. It gets you may think that talking about with somebody or just sitting and thinking it in your thoughts helps. Pen to paper is still one of the most powerful things you can do. It can help you understand. And if you're camped in life, I find so many people sit in the valley of despair way too long when there's so simple little of tools. I've done therapy as well. It helped me a lot, but my book did more for me than just
Hmm.
about anything because it
Hmm.
helped me during the pandemic when I wrote it. I'm stuck in the valley of despair. I've always been a climber,
Hmm.
and it was like, wow, I'm writing this book and I'm getting the publisher and getting the editors they're bugging me, do this, do that. And you need to, you know, finish this off. And
Hmm.
it was painful. Other
Yeah.
times it was just like, yeah, I get up and want to dance. But, at the end of the day, in order to get out of that valley to spur, my point is, and start climbing again, that awareness always comes up for me, right?
Yeah.
You need to be aware of really what do you want, not what does society want. I wrote that down here. He talked about the truth under the story,
Hmm.
right? The
Hmm.
truth.
Hmm.
How much do you think that society controls that? And society can be our family too. How
Hmm.
much do you think society actually controls our narrative, our story, and it stops us from getting to the truth?
I think considerably. I think once you dive into your own story, you can see where those limitations lie and become aware of where that is and try and correct the ones that you think need a tune up and embrace the ones that you are comfortable with. I think that's the duality of that is I think um, some of the narratives might for the listener too, they might sit well in for someone, but um, I think that when writing a book, or I would even go far as to say journaling, there will be new truths that come up within, at least for me, speak for me. There's new truths that come up, and some of them are hard to realize and accept, and you might want to push them to the side. But I think it just goes back to what the goal is. If the goal is to, you know, live the life you want to live and see what you're capable of, then I think those truths need to be explored, even if they're uncomfortable. And you could always return to whatever narrative you had previously if you don't want to. But I think yeah, it's important. It's important, because some beliefs we hold and they're just a hindrance, but we don't necessarily realize the hindrance involved with them. So I think one of the things that I've really worked on is trying to question and always learn. I'm sure you're the same. I'm always curious to learn and take in other perspectives and just see, is there any flaws in what I'm believing that I could really benefit from more information? Um, and so that goes with philosophy or writing a book or music, always trying to, any of them. I think parenting, weightlifting, whatever it is, man, I like the idea of taking in new information and then kind of remolding it, as I go.
Well, analyze, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Even as a parent, people would say to me, Ben, you might get a chuckle at this. You raised four daughters and a son.
uh-huh,
Like, what was that like? I get asked that on podcasts all the time, and I'll say it was character building. What do you mean it
yeah,
was character building? Because one thing that worked for this person didn't work for that person. And guess
yeah,
what? That's like that in my business. That's like
yeah,
that in life.
right.
People say, "Oh, repeat the same process, you'll get the same result." No, you won't.
No, no.
You're making you're saying that life is that linear. I don't think so. It doesn't
Yeah,
work that way, right?
that's right. That's right.
Everything has its time and place, and yes, the past can be indicative of the future, but it's not supposed to be a pattern that you think is going to happen. Oh, this happened 5 years ago, 15 years ago. This happened when I was a kid. So
Hmm.
all of a sudden, that learned behavior is going to keep me stuck. Those listening or watching, you don't have to be stuck.
Yeah, yeah.
You have the seeds of greatness, and you just listen to Ben's story. You can going from a trailer to going to, music to real estate to being a published successful author. Come on. You don't think that took some investment and time? I know I was reading something that did a lot of your writing stuff at 4, was it 4 a.m.?
Yeah, 4 a.m.
Something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah.
you were very, very dedicated. And like you said, and then you still get up at 6 o'clock. Well, I was raising kids. I do supper, help them with schoolwork,
Yeah.
extracurricular activities. I'd start laundry at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then I'd start doing my work for the next day. And I'd be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And at 6:30, 7 a.m., I'm up, I'm making lunches, the kids are getting up, and I did that for years and
Mm-hmm.
years and years.
Mm-hmm.
And people say, well,
Mm-hmm.
how did you do that? Because I was driven. I knew what I wanted. Well, did you have things happen amongst that? Oh, absolutely I did. Oh, how did you deal with it? Head on. All
Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So,
That's it. I mean, that's the piece of this is just do it anyway. I just it's comfortable it is. You just do it anyway. Just head down. Do it anyway.
bum
It's
up.
kind of
Yeah.
yeah.
Way you go.
Just do it. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's why leaders, people that are, people that are those that can really attract or make a difference. Leaders don't just happen for others. They start leading in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And you started that, right? From doing that 4 hour
Yes.
journey to wanting to make money no matter what. It may not have been initially your passion, but it put food on the table. Leaders will start at their family, their core.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this leads right into the fact that I believe in core values. I
Yeah.
have very specific core values that have become a filter for me. And I filter my life through that and decisions through that. Is it perfect? No,
Mm-hmm.
nothing's perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but it
Mm-hmm.
sure catches things, right?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you have core values that you follow? It doesn't matter if you do or not, but if you do, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't laid out a core value system as something that I kind of have like I would put on a wall. I do think I lead with a little bit of an offshoot off of that is finding purpose in a lot of different things. And so a core value would be like uh, you know, really connecting to parenting and being it and working on the craft of it. Um, I think that I apply the same thing to kind of all categories. So it's like I don't think purpose is just like one thing. Purpose is a term used so much now, but I think it's to me it's in all categories. So purpose within lineage and what we're leaving, purpose within uh, multitude of categories. So I don't think I don't have a core value system in the traditional sense, but I do really apply a sense of purpose um, to my life, and I kind of look at it that way. I'm not
That's
one that
awesome.
really takes time to. I'm pretty focused on different categories,
Well, that's
within
good
my life.
enough, though.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't meant to put you on the spot in the sense that I don't have mine up on a little chart. I belong to some different masterminds and stuff, and they've made posters and they'll have it on their wall. And I'm not disregarding the fact of how powerful it can be for those. I have three simple core values of faith, family, work.
yeah,
And
yeah.
all of those people say, well, that's not in detail enough. You need like
Right.
8 or 10. No, I don't, because there's so many subcategories of my faith. There's so many subcategories of family. There's so many subcategories of work. They go
Hmm.
one, two, three. Work
Yeah.
does not supersede the other two,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Which affects my parenting, which affects my, even with my grandkids now, or just how I feel about life. So, yeah, I don't have it necessarily jotted down. They're
Hmm.
just very simple three things
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I've been following for like 30 some years, and they work for me. I'm not saying they'll work for others, right? Everybody's got their dealio, their stick of how they're going to live life.
Sure. Absolutely.
So that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. You know what? Honesty is the key to connection,
Hmm.
right? Vulnerability, people just want to know that they're not alone, that whether or not their journey is way beyond yours. The only difference is you're at point A, they're at point um, C, and they literally can see the fact. Well, at one point in time, Ben was probably at C. He's at A
Oh,
now because he was tenacious and he kept on moving forward. So you give
definitely.
believability and you give people comfort, and comfort isn't a bad thing. That's another thing people say, oh, you shouldn't get comfortable. Why not? Why
Yeah,
can't you be comfortable in who you are?
sure.
You
That's
have
exactly
those
right.
you can have those awareness moments as you mentioned, right? And you continue to grow from that. All of a sudden, if you have an epiphany and you've been doing something the same way, does that mean you stay in the same way, or does it mean you think and are aware of what you just thought and maybe I should interject that. Maybe I should
Yeah,
look into that. That's called growth.
exactly. Yeah, and I think, comfortable being uncomfortable is a term that's used, and I think that comfortable in ourself helps us to go down these different paths, right? Comfort in the self purely helps us believe in ourselves to go down these different directions, and so I think that pushing boundaries is great. It's a wonderful thing to push boundaries, and go, to that next level. But yeah, I think comfort with the self is definitely a goal, is important, you
Oh,
know.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I just thought about something. It just popped into my mindset. You you utilize physical activity so you can be comfortable and be excited and have endorphin hit, but then you can also have your body chemistry when you work out. So if you're doing both together, that's like a double whammy of pushing yourself and moving and keeping on the climb instead of getting camped.
Well, yeah.
So you've
No,
got you've
definitely.
got you've got both going on. And how many people don't even have one of those two things going on, where
Yeah.
they're
Well,
constantly challenging their thoughts and then on top of that being physically active.
yeah. When I think that's the fun, rise and climb. It's like every Sunday I get together with a bunch of guys and we go run a mountain around here, in Santa Cruz Mountains, and
Wow.
and uh, and it's brutal, and it always humbles me every time. It humbles me every single time I do it, no question. It brings me to a place of really pushing myself, but I love it. And I love the piece of it. I love the collective of it. I love that we get together every Sunday. We've been doing it for 7 years. Um, and I find peace when I'm up there, like I run, and then I just be, and I'm just there, and I'm just experiencing what it's like to have push with the body. And I really enjoy that calm and peace, and my mind just is, and I'm just kind of collective, and it's kind of like a good moment for me to frame out. We do it on Sundays. It's a great moment for me to frame out my week, um, and just feel collective. Feel collective. Feel like I made a decision that was difficult to do, but that I love doing, and um, and I return to, you know, consistently.
Well, you're part of a collective of people though too. So you say you're running with this group, and the reason I bring this up is so many people don't realize they're stuck because of their associations,
Right.
right? And
Right.
associations aren't just people, it's what they watch, they listen, they read, just their daily habits. But your biggest association of people is going to reflect on where you're going.
Yeah.
They really
Yeah.
are. So if you're the person that's Monday to Friday, can't wait till the weekend to hang out with buddies and you're going to do, whatever, again, that's completely their choice, but you're a reflection of what your choices are throughout Monday to Friday and then the weekend. And it's that hamster wheel effect. Are you hanging out and associating with people? So you, like you said, you have these reflective moments, right?
Hmm.
You're with these people, you have that common goal to run this mountain, and it helps you reflect on your week. But those people, their commonality that is important to you,
Hmm.
as you said, you've been doing it for years. So getting together with them, I imagine there's conversation, maybe not while you're running, but before or after, or you've created great commonalities or synergy with these people. Have they helped? Has that helped your life besides just the run, having that great association of people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so I think when we're around people that are committed to something that we're also committed to, I think it's a beautiful experience. And so, there's a group that's into fitness, there's a group that's into music, a group of writers, a group, once we're in those collectives, we can thrive off of it and help each other out. So like I love having, um, because this is kind of a multi-dimensional thing. I love having people in the different areas that I can call upon, that are really serious about craft within that. So, the running group, serious ex-athlete guys, professional level guys. So that's exciting. I love going out with those guys. They make me better as a runner, as just a fitness, trying to better myself as fitness. And then in music, it's the same thing, trying to be around creatives, people that are really in that discipline and breathe that discipline. Because I'm in multiple fields, I really thrive off people that are very focused in one category because it helps me to enter that category and really embrace that, So I like having that same thing in music. A lot of the musicians that I work with are full time, just musicians, and so or artists, just artists in general. So that to me is when the collective energy is focused on the thing that we're trying to do, and these are like finely tuned machines, if you will, in those categories, it's super helpful. And I think to circle back, there was a time when I wasn't embracing any of these groups. It was just kind of me solo, and I was just kind of hanging out. It was more just being, not really engaging in these. And so life really took a dramatic turn for me when I like the concept of even starting with an army of one. Now you think of yourself as an army of one. Like if you have to reset, say, okay, it's just going to be me here, army of one, and then I'm going to go out and build the tribe that I want to attach to within things, And so I'm not saying in any way that you shed, or get rid of friends or anything that means something to your life. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying building towards the things you want to build towards and then creating that collective is super important because you start to really get those nuanced dialogues going and you learn together and you bounce things off each other. Or like me and you here, we're both motivated guys, and these are dialogues that we could sit here for hours talking about this because this is how we live our life. So the more that I'm able to talk to people like you, and that's a collective, it's more exciting because we're now all focused on this thing. So yeah, I do believe that's important in whatever way that people can do that to try and align yourself within people within those categories.
Oh, I love it because you talked about having, your musicians, your people that are doing the physical fitness, etc. I'm the same way. I have a group of people that are just podcasters that we communicate, right?
Yeah,
In
yeah,
regards to getting better at the craft.
right.
And I have a mastermind of business people that are entrepreneurs, and we talk about the struggles and help each other get past those struggles or share stories, right, of
Hmm.
how we got past it to give them belief that they can get past it. So each one is structurally supporting something different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
have another group I belong for speakers, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just different things. Sometimes you can't generalize stuff so much, right?
That's
You
right.
can't think that you can get all the answers from one general mentor or mentorship group. It doesn't work that way. Don't be afraid to also interview. And
Yeah,
people are going to laugh, right? What do you
yeah.
mean by the interview? Well, let's see. I'm not just going to pick the first group. I'm going to check out a bunch of groups. I'm going to make sure that I give myself what I deserve, not
Hmm.
what the first thing that comes up that's the shiny thing, right? It's
Right,
all sparkling and that's what I'm going to grab.
right.
So I tell people, you know what? Oh, I'm interested in this group. Okay, what do you know about them? Well, I read this about them. Okay, so you read something that they gave you,
Hmm.
right? That they
Hmm.
produced. Have you dived into it deeper? Have you
Hmm.
asked if you can speak to some of the members? Oh,
Right.
I can't do that. Okay, well, if you don't do that, right, you
Yeah,
could get stuck in something that's not healthy and it's just going to slow you down. So
that's right.
don't be afraid to question people that are so-called authorities to help you, right?
That's right. No, that's right. That's exactly right. I'm with you on that too.
Right on. So we're going to get this is the way my podcast is. I'm sorry. I think of questions as we're going. I have everything, as I said, I'm very organized, but I also realize that things have to happen in the moment. And that's
Yeah.
how
Oh
our
yeah.
conversation started at your book. And now we're going to get back to the book.
Love it.
Um, what was when you actually look at your book and somebody picks it up, as you said, they can read or listen to it. What is one point in the book, right, that you
Mhm.
would figure that is one of the most impactful and powerful moments for people when they're listening to it? Not that they jump to it and miss the rest of the book, but what would be something that you would find would be there to, the de facto standard for most people reading it, that they're going to have that light bulb moment.
Well, I don't want to spoil my book, but my book is basically two drastically different pieces. It's
Okay.
life with struggle and difficulty and just kind of getting by, and then literally flip a switch and everything changes. And that to me is the moment where um, I think people are going to connect with a lot of the struggles within it. And then I think when it changes and I kind of lay out what I did and all the different things that I've done, and I could be more specific than this, I think that is the moment that people are going to, amp up and realize actually what the book is. It's basically like, a very long, because this is just the truth. It's a very long setup for what I became. And so um, when I was 28 and I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, I'm so far from what I'm supposed to be. I'm so far. I knew I was supposed to be so much more for myself, for my son at the time, for my girlfriend at the time. Um, and that moment that I said enough's enough and really just flipped any, you could pick a category, I flipped it in that moment. And so I think that, not everyone has to have what you would call a rock bottom moment like that. And where, I made a song about it called Rock Bottom, actually. And so, my whole book is every chapter is a song that I made during that time because I have a life soundtrack all the way going back. So in my audiobook, it has all the songs that I made at the different times,
Wow.
little clips,
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, all the way back. So, but I think that that's the moment is oh, this is where it's going. And so I don't want to get, I would love people to read it to experience it properly, but
Of
that was,
course, of course.
but that's what I am, that's the beginning of what I am now. And so when the book becomes the beginning of what I am now, I think that's where, if you were to watch this interview, you will see, the commonality in it. That's the beginning of it, but like you'll see the commonality of what I am. And so to me, I want people to feel the energy that I had within that, and then take that for themselves in whatever way it translates. It could be rock bottom, or it could somebody really thriving that just wants to add in and a little tune up on things. To me, that's the gold within it. And to be quite honest, when I read a book, I'm an avid reader, and I'm just looking for the little nugget of gold within a book, right? I'm looking, where's that sentence where I'm like, oh, so that moment is what I'm hoping. And feedback wise, I've gotten from people that they get out of it, and then just make that little change in their life where they're like, okay, I'm going to start doing this thing, I'm going to go back to doing this thing, or I'm going to give a little bit of time for this, or maybe a big thing, or like I'm going to start being in my kid's life, or something like that. I mean, it's any of that stuff is what um I'm hoping people can get out of it humbly too. Let's be clear. I'm not trying, humbly.
Oh, I
That
understand.
that's what I'm really searching for.
Well, you can hear it in your, I can see it. Those watching, you can see it in Ben. You can
Mm.
see the passion throughout this whole conversation, the excitement of talking about the different nuances of the book, of how it can affect you. Each person might find a different nugget. Each person might be looking for something different. And I'm the same way with books. I look for something that's gonna, I want it to be, I'm looking for that nugget within there, but along the waiting for that nugget, they better be taking me on a journey.
That's right. That's
I
right.
don't want, I'm not looking at a structured book where it's just boring. I want something
That's
that's
right.
got some nitty gritty, some good, bad, and indifferent, the ugly of life, and then a satisfying finish,
That's
right?
right. Well, yeah, and
And
I don't, I believe in no weak lines. So like as I kept editing it, I was like, is this sentence needed? I mean, every sentence to me has to be there. It's like, does this belong? Are they getting anything out of this sentence? So I'm a big proponent of that as well. Is the setup is significantly important, you know.
oh, I had that too. There was things that in my book, I don't know what chapter, it was one of the chapters, chapter 6 or 7, and I was going over it with the editor. We were on a call, and I said, you know what? I had to, and people may laugh at this, but I find when you read stuff out loud, it
Mhm.
impacts you different. Your brain hears
Oh
it
yeah.
differently.
Oh yeah.
So I would literally read. a
Hmm.
paragraph, read a chapter out loud to see how I feel.
Hmm.
And because I've become really in tune to my body language, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
becoming a student of human nature, my own human nature first and foremost, as you mentioned earlier, you got to work on the one first.
yeah.
And I literally took out paragraphs. I said, you know, how this is it may initially when I wrote it, it felt good, but it doesn't impact the same way now that I've got the flow.
That's right.
Or I'd change sentences like you were saying, or I'd add sentences, and it was quite the journey, right?
Yeah, I want to sit on this for a second. So,
Sure.
I thought I was done with the book a good 2.5 to 3 years before I was actually done. So I wrote the book and then
Wow.
I did the audiobook. And in that first draft, because I did the audiobook, I realized I didn't believe in every sentence. Some of them didn't fit, and it brought that awareness. And so what was neat was when I did the audiobook for the final version, I believed in every sentence. Like no sentence was like, ooh, I wouldn't say that, or that sounds funny. You know what I mean? And so
Yes, I do.
that was the check that like you just talked about. We're reading it out loud. I experienced the same thing when I was recording it, and because the book is leading with authenticity, it was like if I didn't believe in a line, that would feel really convoluted and strange. So that's where I was quite happy with the extra years, the extra time, and maintaining my voice. I didn't use a co-writer or ghostwriter. I used executive editors with the publisher to finalize it, but I think that was important too, and I think that there's a little bit of a apprehension if people out there are first time writers, but I think maintaining our own voice is such a beautiful thing in writing. Maintaining our voice, and so that's another thing I've learned, and I try and you know tell people is what you just said. Read it, and does it sound like you? Is it what you would say? And that could be very revealing for people if they're new to craft or if they're using AI or something. I AI wasn't around when I made mine, so I didn't even have that
Not
option.
me either.
Right. So that I'm
Right.
grateful for that because I had to really do it, and I think um, my mom's even writing a book right now, and I've
Oh,
been
wow.
talking with her, and she's a therapist, and she's going to get into dealing with grieving and all the different experiences she's learned as a therapist, and she has that tool, and I think that it was like, well, Ma, just make sure it's your voice, that you maintain your voice, and that every sentence is something you would say how you say it, and so I was happy to be able to kind of I'm working with her on that now, and I think um, it's important because in our real voices, I believe going to matter more and more as we go forward. It's same in music, like the rise
100%.
and climb album I'm doing acoustic. I wanted it to just be a guitar and a vocal because I wanted to really get down to the core, the redos of all the songs in the audiobook and all the songs I made, but it goes back to that same thing of authenticity and just a real organic truth, that I could create with an upright bass, a little bit of percussion, and a guitar and a vocal.
So no facade.
No
Just
facade,
the,
exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
and I'm so tired of that. Those listening and watching, if you're writing anything, I don't even care if it's a social post, right? Or if it's an email to somebody, back in my day, a letter, right?
Hmm.
I know it's hard for people to believe, but there used to actually be people would write on a piece of paper and mail a letter. Be your genuine self.
Yeah.
There's only one of you, just like your fingerprint, it's unique. You don't have to please everybody. Those that are in your, you mentioned earlier, I love that word too. I use a lot as tribe. You mentioned
Hmm.
that earlier in the conversation. They're
Hmm.
gonna they're gonna appreciate you for your genuine you, even if there's a little nuance or a mistake because you didn't say it with $20 words. I call them the 20, too flashy, too fancy.
Hmm.
It was just, you know, this is what it is. People are going to accept you for who you are if they're part of your tribe or they want to become part of your tribe, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't work so hard at being you. Just be
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
right?
Well
And
said.
I talk to people about that all the time. So under all of this, you've done so much, right? You're writing, your real estate, your $250 million in sales, right? You're training as your endurance athlete. You've done all these different things. And you've talked about many different disciplines in the sense of what's helped you stay going forward. What would you say would be the number one discipline that you would tell other people to utilize on their climb that will make it so that they don't burn out too?
Hmm. So I the number one thing is do it anyway, and just allow yourself whatever that looks like on any given day. So if you're feeling tired, and it's a day you're supposed to, if you're if it's an exercise day that is appropriate for exercise, just do a little bit, just do a little something, even one set, just do something, um, because the habit, I don't want to say fear losing the momentum, but I definitely understand that it's through the routine of it that it becomes ingrained and you stop really thinking about it and it just becomes um, part of your day and your experience. And so I would just say put in the repetitions. You don't have to be excited about it if it's something you truly are trying to focus on pursuing. Just put in the repetitions, and that could be for anything, time with your kids, but you're burnout or something like that. Just I think there's ways that we can approach it to where we don't have to be in a perfect situation to do it. I don't have to be in a perfect mind state to come on the podcast. I don't have to be in a perfect mind state to make a song. I don't have to be perfect mind state to go make a conversation for real estate. It's just doing it and allowing yourself to have the freedom of like, I don't need everything to be aligned perfectly to make this happen and make this habit. Read a little, like I read every morning a little bit or a lot, depending on the morning. But I'll do it. Sometimes it'll even just be a paragraph. I'll be quite honest with you. It's just about like sitting down, putting in the rep of the thing, finding okay, I enjoy that. Um, but I do have one caveat to that. I also don't like to become obsessed with something. So like I wear the watch. It has a step counter. I like to try and get 10,000 steps a day. But if I'm at 9,000, I made the mistake of running around the house to try and get my 10,000 before, right? I don't want to be that. I think it's good to nurture it, to be flowing in it, but not obsessed to the point where you're hard on yourself for missing a day, or you're hard on yourself for, having a meal that's out of lane, or I definitely am one that believes in habits, believes in the forward progress, believes in the momentum and the routine, but also watching when that threshold goes to something else, because that I think is where we get caught up in, badges and these things that our phones tell us we did, or streaks, there's a certain amount of streaks that's good. And I think it can go to this other thing. And so that's one of the pieces that I'm uh, also watching within myself.
Of course. Yeah, because we can become obsessed with consistency. At one point in time when I was younger, I was like you, the 10,000 steps a day. But for me, as a Canadian, it was I had to do minimum 5 kilometers a day of power walking. I had injured
Right.
myself and I couldn't run. I couldn't do a lot of the things I used to do to be physically active because of some core health issues that were genetic and are
Hmm.
genetic still. So I did that. And I did that and did that and did that. And I had a day, and I don't share this with a lot of people. I had a day where I felt a twinge in my leg.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, I'm not going to do this. And it wasn't that great outside. We go through the 4 seasons, here
Hmm.
completely. Like we get snow and stuff. So I have a treadmill. And I went up to go on the treadmill and I was doing my stretching, my prior stretching before I got on the treadmill because stretching is important for those listening or watching.
Right.
It's invaluable to stopping injury. I was 2 kilometers in, right? And I got to 3 kilometers and I felt something tinging even more and I should have quit and I didn't.
Hmm.
Well, it was 9 months later before I got back on a treadmill, before I could do
Mm.
anything because I won't get into the specifics of it, but I injured myself so bad that night I went to go to bed. I was in so much pain. I woke up in the morning and I went to a doctor, started going to physiotherapy just because I didn't listen to myself. I got to do this. I'm at day 180 or whatever. I haven't missed a day,
Hmm.
right? And I
Yeah,
didn't give myself a word that most people don't understand. I didn't give myself grace,
that's right. That's right.
right? And we need to
Absolutely.
do that. And I appreciate you sharing that. That is amazing. I hope those that are listening or watching here if you're driving, obviously don't take notes, but if you're listening to this at home, rewind some of this stuff. Listen to this podcast again. Ben has got so many nuggets of wisdom that he's shared, and I so appreciate it. So, Ben, we're just about at the end of the episode here. All this stuff that you've gone through, I'm not going to reiterate it, but what has this all taught you at the essence about giving a heck about life and never giving up?
I think at its core that it's worth it. That it's worth it to not give up. It's worth it. I'm worth it. The listener's worth it. You're worth it. And I think that if we allow ourselves permission, to thrive and enjoy our life and to see what we're capable of, to me, it's like coming out of the cave into the sunlight. And I think that that's the beauty of it. And just to keep at it. I think that at its core, it's just keep at it.
And that's exactly it. That's part of back what we started at the beginning of this episode. Tenacity is never giving up, right? It's
Right.
just always, it doesn't mean, as you mentioned a few minutes ago, it doesn't mean that that you beat yourself up for not hitting your 10,000 steps or having
No,
what I'd call a cheat meal.
that's
Right.
right.
I'm very specific about how much sleep I get because it's one of the number one things for a healthy body, mind, and spirit.
That's right.
My nutrition, I'm very um, specific about it. I have been for many, many years. And at the end of the day, though, I have those meals that once in a while, my son, when he comes home, my kids are all adults, or I get together with people and they'll go, "Oh, we know you don't eat this anymore." And I'll go, "Heck yes, I will."
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you mean? Well, my life isn't so rigid that I'm stuck between two walls.
That's right.
If I eat this, yes, it may not be within my realm of what you believe I am now, but I'm not
Hmm.
that rigid. I can eat that food.
Yeah.
I can
That's
do
right.
this one thing that I might not do because life's in session, people. This isn't a dress rehearsal,
Mm,
right?
that's
You
true.
don't know when your ticket's going to be punched. I've lost so many friends and family way younger than me, right? At the end of the day, I know some of those people went, "Oh, I'm going to wait on doing this. This I can do it in the future," and that
Hmm.
future never came.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not saying throw away all your disciplines. I'm saying don't beat yourself up for having a cheap moment,
Right.
right?
That's right. I agree.
So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So at the end of the day, if you had to give one last message though to, people listening right now who feel lost everything maybe more than once, they're standing in rubble wondering if it's even worth trying to rebuild again, someone who's been on the edge of giving up, what do you want them to hear before we end this episode?
Well, first that I've been there and I can relate. Um, and that secondly, you're worth it and that you're worth investing in yourself and seeing what you're capable of. And it all starts with even just the subtlest of decisions to just do the subtlest of things, the smallest of things. And that can snowball into so much more. And so that's what I'd offer.
That's awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Mm.
So, what comes through in everything you built, the music, the book, the life, is that none of it happened by accident. You didn't just survive what happened to you, you turned it into actual material that you could build upon. That's a different thing than resilience as a talking point. It's resilience as a practice. And I think our listeners felt that today. I know I sure did. Ben, where's the best place for listeners to find your work, get the book, hear the music, and connect with you?
Well, you can go to the website, riseandclimb.com. It's rise, letter N, climb.com. You can go to Amazon to get the book, the audio book, or the hardcover. You go to Audible to get the book. And then the music's available on all streaming services. So Spotify, Apple Music, wherever people listen to music, and it's just all under my name. So if you type in my name or you type in Rise and Climb, you'll find you'll find me there.
Right on. For those new to the Give a Heck podcast, go to giveaheck.com, go to the top, click podcast. You will see a picture of Ben. You will see detailed show notes. I put in chapter summaries. You will see all his social media links. You will see his link to his website, anything that is pertinent to make sure that you don't lose the opportunity to connect with Ben and his material as well. There'll be the full transcript in there for some of you that I know that actually like going to the transcripts. You can go and read the whole transcript of the episode as well. Again, giveaheck.com. And is there anything else you'd like to share or add before we wrap up the show, Ben?
I think this is the unique situation where we covered it so beautifully that I just really appreciate that conversation, and you know, I hope to talk to you again sometime.
Oh, absolutely. I've had in the last 5 years, I've had guests on more than once as
Mm,
they transition or they grow or they feel they might listen back to the episode and they'll say, I've had people reach out to me, hey, can we do a part two in the future or really
uh-huh.
soon? Or they'll tell me, I'm going to release this. So you're writing another book.
Yeah,
Reach out, brother.
I
Right?
I
You're
will
you're
I will
you're
do
doing
that.
this, this acoustic stuff with your music.
Yeah,
Reach
yeah.
out.
No, I appreciate it.
I'm an open book, brother. This is the podcast is called Give a Heck. And for those that are new to the show that don't understand, my book is how my podcast is. Starts out at the origin, builds, and then has a clean finish as to my life. And
Mm,
the subtitle of my book is How to Live Life on Purpose and Not by Accident. Right? And I truly believe that you can live a life of purpose, but it isn't going to just get dropped on your lap,
mhm.
right? You
That's right.
have to work for it. So thank you so much again. I appreciate your final words to our viewers and listeners. Thank you for investing your time with us today. We do not take that lightly. If this episode, pardon me, resonated with you, please share it. When you share an episode, it helps this message reach more people so they too can give a heck and live with purpose and intention. Please subscribe to the Give a Heck podcast on your favorite platform and leave a comment or review. It helps the show grow and allows more people to discover conversations that challenge them to step up and live intentionally. Until next time, live life on purpose and not by accident. And remember, it's never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.